In this video, I'm going to show you a personalized roadmap that you can use this week to increase your sleep, energy, focus, and stress resilience. So let's dive into it. Okay, the first step that we want to do to increase your sleep, energy, focus, and stress resilience is we want to really get your diet down. Everybody hears about diet, and when they hear about diet, they have a lot of resistance to it because there's a lot of negative connotations with it. It's really inconvenient. You have to have 3 teaspoons of this, 3 cups of this. And at the end of the day, we just want to eat food that's enjoyable for us. But I want to give you the heaviest hitting foods that you can eat, different strategies that you can look at to make it really simple, easy, effortless, and most importantly, fun for you. Because when you can make it fun and it's actually enjoyable, you're going to stay consistent with it. And that's how it should be. Because if it's not fun, if it's not enjoyable, you won't be able to do it for the long term. It's going to be very difficult for you to see results. So the first thing we need to look at is eating real whole foods. And what that is avoiding foods that are really in bags, boxes, and cans. That's a simple rule, 3-in-1 that you can look at. I'm going to go through these quick. There's a lot more details to each one. If you want any specific details on these, definitely shoot me a DM, schedule a call with me, and we can look into it in more detail. The second one is we want to find out what our metabolic type is. We have different body types that are based on our biochemistry that are better, that are more receptive to certain kinds of food groups that we eat. It's a free question that you can look at. There's a free one and there's a paid one, but you can just go to www.mtdiet.com. There's a lot you can look at. And when you eat foods that agree with your body, that agree with your genetics, you'll have a lot more energy, clarity, focus, less inflammation, more, better sleep. The list just goes on. The third thing is we want to eliminate foods that we're sensitive to. This kind of goes with MT Diet, the mtdiet.com, but to test for food sensitivities, we can do 2 things. One is we can do an elimination diet, which is my favorite one. The second thing that we can do is look at a blood food sensitivity test. It's usually known as an IgG test. And we can get this from, functional medicine and different things. And that's good in a lot of ways. But IgG is one form of a sensitivity that we can have to foods, but there's many other forms of sensitivities. I think it's just best that we test what foods we're sensitive to just by subjectively feeling. Does it make us feel good or does it make us feel bad? If it makes us feel not good, then let's just remove it. It saves a lot of money. It's a lot less, I've seen a lot of false positive tests where we'll actually see somebody is showing they have a sensitivity to the food, but they aren't sensitive, and vice versa, where they don't show a sensitivity, but whenever they eat it, it just really knocks them out and they have this hangover feeling. So that's one thing that we can look at. The next thing is we want to cook our own food. We want to really minimize eating out 1 to 2 days a week. This is pretty normal for most people, but one, it's going to save you money. It's more affordable. And the second thing is when we do go out to eat, even if we're eating salads, if we're eating healthy things, there's going to be a lot of specific seed oils, which is not good for our body and for our thinking and our cognition and our, our ability to sleep. And just overall, there's going to be processed things in there that we don't realize unless, you're very strict. You tell the waiter what you're looking for, what you're looking to actually ingest inside of your body, then sure. But besides that, there's going to be a lot of refined carbs in there, a lot of, seed oils, salts, processed foods, just other sensitivities. There could be cross-contamination with gluten, all the stuff that we just do not want in our body. The next is we want to eat what feels best for you. So if you eat it and you feel tired or bloated, just don't eat it, because that is a sign that you have a food sensitivity or it's an actual bad food quality. A good example of this is there's some people that drink alcohol and they have a hangover that lasts for days. And they think it's from the alcohol, but actually it's from the gluten that's inside of the alcohol. And it's interesting what we switch them over to an alcohol that's gluten-free. It could be a liqueur, it could be a gluten-free beer or anything like that, ideally free of grains. Then they don't have that same hangover reaction. And that's because they had that sensitivity to gluten. Once we remove that, it's amazing how that went away. So that's a little hack that you can look at. The next is we want to be able to maintain good glycemic control. This is kind of our blood sugar. So if we're riding this blood sugar roller coaster, you can think of it like +1, -1. That's kind of the safe zone our body likes. Ideally, we want to be in the middle, straight at 0. But let's say if it's going +1, -1, maintaining that healthy level. And this is kind of like our nomadic ancestors. We would not have all this refined sugar. We would, really eat food that was low in sugar. The most amount of sugar would probably be from berries. But now there's so much refined, carbohydrates and sugars that's going to spike our blood sugar to +10 to -10, way beyond of what it's actually capable of. And when that happens, we are going to go into sort of a fight or flight mode. Our immune system, all these different systems in our body are going to go into overdrive, sound the alarm bells, and now these backup generators have to come online in order to kind of save the day and remove these internal fires. A big thing is when we increase blood sugar, it's going to require a lot of insulin from our pancreas to bring that blood sugar back down. And that which comes up is going to go back down. So if we're at a plus 10, we're going to shoot down to a minus 10. When we're at a minus 10, to try and get back to zero, we need to secrete cortisol and adrenaline to bring that back up again. And so our body is just riding this roller coaster and pumping different backup generator, whether it's hormones, anything, to really bring that back up to balance when it's just not necessary. If that happens, we're always going to be in this catabolic breaking down state. We want to be in a building up state where our body's naturally healing, where we fill our cup so full of water that what flows over is used to heal our body. And that's only when our baseline state is removed from those internal fires. So think about that for the next time you're eating these types of foods. The next thing we want to take a look at, a little bit more on just that blood sugar really quickly. So this will lead to sleep issues. When that cortisol rises in the adrenaline, if we have low blood sugar, that can increase the amount of times that we're waking up in the middle of the night. It's not just nightmares why we could be awakening or stress. It could be our hormones. It could be our brainwaves and a lot of things going on as well. It's more than just one piece of the pie. The next thing is we can document our progress for 2 to 4 weeks. Having that meta-analysis, like we really forget what we ate for breakfast, yesterday, 2 days ago, let alone 1 week ago. So if we can at least document what we were eating and, doing a graph, like how did we feel? How was our energy when we woke up? How did we feel like we slept that night? Some of us have an Oura ring, that's great, or some other wearable tracker. But if you don't, or even if you do, it's very good to write down subjectively, how do you actually feel? It's very important because based on that meta-analysis, when we look at this bird's eye view of everything happening, we could say, oh, it seems like it was from this thing. And then once we remove it, we feel better. And then we track that thing, and we're making all these hyper optimizations to, refine how we feel. And that's the fastest way that I have seen to get better. So a couple things, how much of each food satisfies your hunger? Do you feel tired or anxious after eating? Do you feel depressed or have brain fog after eating? How long? What is your well-being like after eating? Morning, afternoon, evening. So we want to track different parts of the day. Next, let's go into sleep. So sleep, also known as rest. The first thing we want to do is we want to find what our chronotype is. You can go to www.thepowerofwhenquiz.com. It's known by a scientist named Dr. Bruce. It'll tell you what your sleep animal sign is. It sounds a little childish, but it's basically going to tell you genetically there's 4 different sort of animal signs. There's bear, there's lion, there's dolphin, and there's wolf. And based on that, are you an early morning person, a late morning person, or are you an early evening person or very late night owl type of person? And based on this, you can tailor your day to really maximize what your energy is. The best thing to do is to do a genetic test where we do a saliva sample and we send it over to the lab, because that will tell us exactly where we don't have to guess. Are you more of a morning person and more of a nighttime person? If you start following a routine that is against your biology and genetics, it's not going to reward you. You're always going to be fighting against your biology. We want to flow with our biology. We want to go down like a slippery slide. And once we do that, our body's going to honor us in how we feel throughout the day with our focus, with our energy, and so much more. And just by that simple tweak alone, you can absolutely increase all these different areas of your life. The next thing is we want to invest in blue light blocking glasses. Definitely ask me for some of the brands. There's a lot of them out there, but there's certain ones that you definitely want to look at. Number 3, eating, this kind of goes into diet, but eating heavy meals 4 to 5 hours before bedtime, really want to minimize this. This has to do with our blood sugar levels, our brain neurotransmitters. It's also going to, spike blood sugar. It's going to increase our internal body temperature and a lot of different things with digestion. It's just not good. So for the sake of brevity in this video, just try and avoid that. The next thing is keeping our sleep space dark. So the darker, the better. Ideally, we want to make it so dark we would not be able to see our hand in front of us. But we have to be realistic too. Just try and make it as pitch black as possible. This includes any electronics inside, from fans, cable boxes, TVs, cover tape, or ideally if you can turn it off. If you want to take it a step further, you can also put it on a timer so everything goes off at your bedtime and then turns back on in the beginning of the day. Next is minimizing TV
computer, phone before bedtime. This has to do with electronics, but it's more so the blue light. The blue light will directly suppress your melatonin levels, which is your master sleep hormone, and that will directly suppress your REM sleep. Not good. So what we can do on our computer, and I believe it's on the Apple Store, is we can download an application called iristech.co. It's amazing. You can also look at the Twilight app on the phone as well. The next one is a quick one, wearing socks to bed. That is shown to improve sleep quality for some people. So definitely give that one a listen. Here's some other couple strategies that we can do too, though. Instead of looking at a screen, we can listen to an audiobook. On Audible, there's a timer there, and you can set it on that timer to go off in 15 minutes. So it could be something calming that you're listening to, and then you'll slowly pass out, and then the audiobook will turn off as well. You can also, as a bonus, to remove and to lower EMFs, which is the last point here. EMFs are known as electromagnetic fields. There's different ways to measure it. Definitely ask me, because this is something that's very important. It's early in the science, but it's really going to show, I believe, in years to come, that it's one of the most detrimental things for our sleep and our overall well-being. Nobody knows about it right now because it is sort of invisible, but it is something that is detrimental to our sleep. So one thing I would suggest is, with your phone, always putting in airplane mode when you go to sleep. And what you can do with an audiobook or any kind of other, audio or listening based program, it could be, atmospheric sounds of the weather. It could be an audiobook. It could be anything really. It could be a YouTube video, but having that in airplane mode, but then downloading it so you have it available offline. And that's a really good thing that you can use as well. Next, we want to avoid, noisy alarm clocks. They can spike your cortisol. Ideally, we want to wake up with the light, and naturally, ideally without any alarm, if we can do that too. And once you train your body in that rhythm, it'll be very used to doing that regularly. Next is, we want to keep our bedroom environment temperature really cool, about 68 degrees Fahrenheit, or, I would say between 16 and 20 Celsius. The next one is no caffeine after 2 p.m. Ideally, we want to do 9-10 hours before sleep. Don't have any caffeine. It can be, especially for people who are slow metabolizers of coffee, can be very detrimental for them. Excuse me. So next, let's go into exercise. What we want to do during the day, this is good for our blood sugar, our brain neurotransmitters, our mood, our sleep, and so much more. We want to move our body every day for at least 30 minutes. Any kind of movement. Ideally, if you can do high intensity, that's great for a condensed time window of time. But anything at all, if you can just walk around your house, if you can walk around outside, if you can walk a pet, if you can, go to the gym, any one of these, doing yoga, it's all great. Just try and move your body. The next is investing in a stand-up desk. You can also get them with a walking treadmill. Also great to get steps in, depending on what your budget is. We can also start the day, with a exercise routine. So we can do yoga, walking, interval training, playing a sport. And again, it's about making it fun and making it enjoyable. So what does that look like for you? Also, sun is very important for our eyes when we first wake up in the morning. So in the same way we want to reduce blue light when we first go to bed, we want to do the opposite when we wake up. And what that will do is send light into our eyes, into our master clock within our brain, and tell all of our organs and all of our hormones when is it time to start turning on. Each of our organs and our hormones have their own circadian rhythm. If it does not have a stimulus telling it to turn on, it's going to be very difficult for us to know when is it time to go to bed. So we need a cue. When is it time to wake up? And when is it time to go to bed? And that's where the light comes in the morning. You wake up within an hour, ideally, exposing your eyes for 30 minutes upon waking. If it's sunny outside, you can do about 10 minutes. If it's cloudy outside, you should do upwards of 30 minutes. Absolutely. Next, let's look at stress. Stress is really important. There's different kinds of stress. So think about a stress bucket. Everyone has a different size stress bucket. Some people have a big stress bucket, could be genetic reasons, could be other reasons. And other people have a small stress bucket. We all know somebody that can't tolerate a lot of stress, and other people can tolerate a lot of stress, and they're calm, cool, and collected. Well, there's two kinds of stress. The stress we know typically is external stress. Deadlines, arguments with a spouse or a partner, things we have to do, work obligations, activities we have to attend, a death in the family. There's a big range of all those external stresses. We know those, and we relatively know that, what to do about it if one of those things happen, relatively. But one of them that are hidden are the internal stressors. The internal stressors are stressors such as inflammation in our body, blood sugar dysregulation. We could have deficiencies. We could have a gut parasite. We could have leaky gut. We could have a slow thyroid. We could have a lot of toxins built up inside of our body. All these things add to the stress bucket. And so it's possible we might not have a lot of stress in our external life, but if there's all these stressors inside of us, it's going to take a long time to heal. So that's something that we want to look at first. So like I said, immune system, digestion, detoxification, energy, nervous system, they're all there. We know what each of those are. So there's a lot of ways to reduce stress. The most important thing, though, is we have to be aware of it. De-stress at home. It's more important to do a lot more frequent de-stresses that are many throughout the day instead of just one big drawn-out session. That one big drawn-out session is better than nothing, absolutely. But ideally, if we can take a moment to take 5 breaths in throughout the day if we're ever feeling stressed, or go outside, go for a walk, breathe through the nose. We can do box breathing in the nose for about 8-10 seconds, hold it for 6 to 8 seconds, and then out through the mouth for about 6 to 10 seconds. And if we can do 5 rounds of that, there's scientifically proven that that can help de-stress us and activate something known as our rest and digest, or the parasympathetic nervous system. So very important. We want to focus on active recovery, not passive recovery. So opposed to a passive recovery where we takes a long time to chill out, such as, going home, drinking a beer, Netflix. We want to focus on active recovery. We're very, productive people. We want to be able to start feeling good within a short time period. So active recovery could be hot, cold shower, Epsom salt bath, float tank, cryotherapy if you want to get more advanced. But meditation could be one. Going to the gym could be one. What are those things in a condensed time window within 10, 15, 20 minutes? You can start feeling a lot more relaxed faster, and that's possible. Next one is putting your phone in airplane mode before bedtime. I said that before. And a really good one is when you wake up, you don't take your phone out of airplane mode. You go right to your most important task or start your morning routine with a meditation. You will notice a direct impact on how you feel that day because you're not looking at your emails when you first wake up. You don't have a cortisol spike when you first wake up, and that's really good for you. Next is gratitude. Gratitude, a lot of people think it's woo-woo. I used to at one point, but it's just very good for our biology, and there's a lot of proof to show that. So whether when we first wake up, anything about gratitude, or before we go to bed, we just think of 5 things that we have gratitude for. We want to be more in our body, less in our mind. So if we find ourselves a lot in our mind, we want to go more into our body because then it's just less stuff happening within our mind. Yoga is very good for that, but you can look at exercise to get more into your body. In terms of techniques, we can do a body scan meditation. There's something known as progressive muscle relaxation, EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. And we can also look at EMDR. Google what all these are, take a look. But if you have any questions, I definitely have a lot of resources and can help you out with that too. Lastly, again, simplistic, we can look at supplements. Keep in mind, supplements are there to supplement an already good existing diet and lifestyle. We don't want to make that the core. Sometimes supplements are good for short-term relief care, but it should not be the norm. If it's coming from a place using it as a crutch, it's a bad place to come from. We want that to supplement. So we're already feeling 8 out of 10. We're already feeling 9 out of 10. We're just using that to optimize and to get to that 10 out of 10 place. I can tell you that I have a bunch of supplements that are all on my wall, on my shelf. And what I will do is, a lot of the time I won't necessarily take supplements because I don't feel like I have to. But what I will do if I wake up and I'm feeling great, I just know that it's, I'll pick 3 supplements, kind of like a buffet, and I'll choose those are the supplements that I feel like I need that day. Maybe it'll be that afternoon, maybe it'll be that evening, and then the next day it'll be a different set of supplements, just because I feel what my body and mind potentially need that day. Some days I don't even feel like I need to take those supplements, but again, it's just building this awareness over time, what you think you need. But if you're using supplements as the core, it will never replace a lot of these things. It sounds in terms of marketing sexy with a lot of those different terms, different supplements that are out there and new cutting edge techniques and tactics. I think it's great. There's a lot of cool stuff that's coming out in the science with all that stuff. But again, it has to be used not as a crutch, but as a supplement to something that's already healthy as the core. Check with your doctor with all these things, but here's a couple of things that you can look at. First thing we want to look at is higher quality always. Ideally, we want the supplement to be pharmaceutical grade and always ensuring that it's third-party tested. And that's important because if we just go to our local Walgreens, Walmart, Costco, a lot of what they say that's inside of there is just full of fillers and what's not actually there. I can't tell you the amount of times I work with clients where they've taken something and it was just something off the shelf from their local health food store. But then we actually start giving them something that's actually pharmaceutical, and it's the exact same thing, and they notice a difference right away, and they start feeling better within a couple of days. That's how powerful it is. A couple other things we can look at in sort of stress and anxiety. Stress for the body, adaptogens, take a look it up. For our mind, L-theanine, it's also naturally inside of green tea. We can look at GABA and also holy basil. Holy basil is very good for a tea that we can utilize. Now, in terms of sleep, melatonin, there's going to be a separate video on this, but melatonin is good, but only in certain circumstances. And we really don't want to take more than 0.2 or 0.3 milligrams. Ideally, if you can have that sublingual, that's under your tongue, that can absorb fastest into your body. But if we start having more than that, that can actually disrupt our sleep. Yes, you hear a lot of different things that, melatonin is an antioxidant. If you get sick for your immune system, you can take high dose melatonin for a short period of time. There is some truth to that. It's kind of like, vitamin D. You can take a really high dose for a short period of time if you feel yourself getting sick. But those are just, rare exceptions and outliers to the rule. Ideally with melatonin, if you feel like your eyes were exposed to light within an hour or 2 hours before bedtime, you weren't wearing blue light blocking glasses, there's jet lag, and there's all these different situations, then sure, you can pop some melatonin, but only have just a little bit. Because if you have too much, and again, there's genetic reactions, different reactions genetically that people have depending on their melatonin receptors and different things, you want to see what amount is good for you. You might have noticed before, if you take too much melatonin, you will develop a tolerance to it. So be careful with that. Next is B complex vitamins. So this is very good for energy, for building ATP, something known as the Krebs cycle. We can also look at creatine. My favorite is HCl creatine, but the most research is called basically monocreatine, which is just the one that's been around since the 1970s. For focus, we can look at L-tyrosine. That's a precursor to dopamine to help us focus, and stress resilience too is there. Inflammation, we can take turmeric. Blood sugar, cinnamon is your go-to as a natural blood sugar stabilizer. Apple cider vinegar is also really good, but if you find yourself eating sugar a lot throughout the day, or if you're getting a lot of these blood sugar up and downs, and you can tell it affects your mood or it's waking you up while you sleep, try having a lot of cinnamon throughout the day. That is very good. Of course, trying to lower your natural sugar as much as possible, but cinnamon you can put on, Granny Smith apples, green apples. Those kind of apples have the least amount of sugar, so those are also good. So like I said, when done right, these tips will help you a lot. However, they're the very basics and just scratching the surface of what is possible for your sleep, energy, focus, and stress. I mean, this is really the tip of the iceberg. We really, covering 5-10% here. You can go so much deeper, and even more importantly, something that is customized to you. So if you are somebody who are looking to improve any one of these things, whether you feel like a 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, or less than a 5, and there's some major stuff that needs to change, or if you're already feeling pretty good, like a 7.58, and you're just looking to get up to a consistent 10, then this is as important for you, because it's all about hyper optimization. It can sometimes be very easy to get to 8, but getting those last percentage points can be a little bit more tricky and more narrow. So that's where you need something that's more personalized to you. Again, Riley from the Sleep Consultant here, signing off. I wish you a great sleep tonight, a great day ahead, and we'll talk to you real soon. Bye for now.